Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, and Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the 2014 and 2015 Property Investment Advisors of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, where each week Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property finance and money management. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, no banter this week, mate. It's kind of the
it's
the bye week.
It's the bye week.
Yeah.
Games tonight.
Yes.
So first game of the season.
Well,
So the series, final series.
So my boys have switched over to Richmond now, so they're happy that they're
both
in.
of them.
Yeah, both of them.
How do you let them do that?
Mate, come on. I live in Melbourne, trying to get them to support Fremantle. That is torturous.
Well, that's not torturous. That's just, that's about.
Oh, you're on the bandwagon now, are you?
What do you mean? It's just.
Mate, they got choice. They want to hang out with their mates.
Oh,
they want to hang out with their mates. Jack goes to school and he goes, Daddy, do you know that no one goes for Fremantle here? And I go, mate, I know. So let's really consider what you want to do long term.
Mate, don't you want to build resilience in your kids?
Oh, God.
Seriously.
Mate, you want to build missing front teeth in yours, that's fine.
Well,
hey, we digress. I've got to watch the cover.
I shouldn't have got that tattoo on Jack's back. I must have I went a bit over.
You did go overboard on
Anyway,
that.
what have we got today?
Hey, a couple of things. We made the YIP Awards, Ben.
Did we?
Yes, we got the Property Investment Advisory of the Year.
We're going to have to change our intro.
Hey?
So your investment property magazine.
The Your
That's
Investment
good.
Property, we're back where we're...
2018.
Yes.
But that's the group. That's what I love about it. It's not just about me.
Yeah.
This one's about the whole
Well, that's what I
team.
liked about this one too.
Yep, that's good.
Certainly, it was certainly about the group. So well done to our team here.
Yes, congratulations, crew.
But our guest, Ben, I'm not going to. I'm just going to a little breadcrumb here. But our guest is also in the YIP Awards today. So
fantastic.
We will go through that shortly. But before we do, last week's guest, Andrew Mackie-Smith.
Yes.
He was also one of the winners.
Oh, was he?
Did you know that?
Oh, we only get the best on the couch.
We only get the best on the couch. It was Andrew Mackie-Smith, and he was the #1 building inspection 2018
Building
winner as well.
Best inspection winner. Brilliant.
Yes, so well done to Andrew
Clever
for doing that as
people.
well. Hey, a couple of things, Ben.
Yes.
Escape from the City.
The new TV show.
What's a TV show?
New TV show.
The new TV show is it's imminent, Ben. We're very close.
Oh, have you got a date?
I don't have a date, but I've just come back from the
Are we
Central
still
Coast.
on prime time? Or have they moved you to Saturday 4 p.m?
Oh, look at you with your posture over there. Yep, no, it's still on prime time. Don't worry about that.
I'm looking forward to it. Because where have you been? Or you're not allowed to say?
Will you watch it?
I'll watch one. I promise you I'll watch one.
Yeah, hello. So even our guest is laughing at that. Ben claims he's watched Location. He's been in a room once with his back to the screen, so I did see that. We'll move on anyway. That's okay. We'll move on.
How many of the Location Australia did you make?
40.
40 episodes.
Well, 30, and then relocation was 10, so 40 all up.
3 of 40?
Oh, 10%. Oh, here we go. Just under.
Just under.
Also, if you want to watch our episode of the Today Show, Ivis, I'll talk to you because I get it with my sense, all right? It's on Facebook, so go and check that out. Me and Ben getting on live TV with the red light goes on, watch the whites in our eyes.
And if you want us to do something on the Today Show,
give us a hit, yeah.
Give us a hit. Just let us know what topic you want to talk about on the Today Show. We'll pitch it to the producers, and they've said, look, anything that adds value and educates people, good stuff.
Yeah, been talking along, mate, stumbling over your words this morning.
Oh,
and
maybe it's the brain tumour that's probably grown a little bit too quick.
Property Buyers Expo, Ben, is this weekend.
Yep.
Starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
In
Sydney.
We're doing a first home owners segment on Saturday at 10 o'clock.
I'm on Sky News at 9 till 10.
You're hosting it.
They've called me a co-host. I don't know what that means.
I cannot wait. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to ping a little bit of popcorn up on the desk.
I'm an expert on that hour, right? So I'm not co-hosting. Let's not
Okay.
try and get too ahead of ourselves.
All right, well, let's check that out, folks. Ben will be on that.
I'm not even the co-host of the Property Couch. I just turn up because you need someone to talk to.
Correct. No, you're the star here. And our very special guest today, before we introduce her, she will be talking on Sunday at 10 a.m. So if you like what you're about to hear, which I suspect you will, you can come and say good day to us, but you can also come and say good day to our guest who is on at 10 o'clock, Ben.
And I've got something on Sunday at 10 as well.
Okay.
Haven't I?
No, yours is at 1.
Oh, mine's at 1.
Were you going to turn up at 10? You'd have been early.
I'll be there. I'm going to be there the entire 3 days because I'm there for Picker as well.
Yeah.
Trying to get members to sign up for Picker.
You got a busy 3 days.
I got a busy 3 days. Yep. And our company's also got a stand there.
We do
as well. So there you go.
What, the Property Investment Advisory of the Year's got a stand there?
Well, yeah.
And the last thing, Ben.
Yes.
The last thing. The PIPA survey expires tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
So get your surveys in. We need to understand the sentiment of the property investment market as it stands right now. Because things have changed from last year. We've been doing this sentiment survey. This is the 4th year now.
Yep.
Okay, so it's one of the largest independent surveys of property investors. Am I spitting into you?
No, I just was making sure I got some wet the whistle here.
Okay, that's fine. So that's exciting for us as well. So please click on the link. Click on Ivis is giving
Where, Ben? Where's the link? Where's the link?
On the website.
Whereabouts on the website?
On the
on the show notes.
On the show notes. Click on the show notes.
How long have we been doing
Apparently
this?
you double tap or something. It doesn't work on my phone. I get annoyed by that.
Well, don't double tap, because if you tap it once, it works. If you double tap, it goes away.
Oh, I don't know.
So
anyway,
there we go. Hey, so there was a fair bit in that intro.
That was. We're up and about.
So, but yeah, come and say good day at the Property Buyers Expo at it's not Jeff Shed in Sydney, it's ICC.
ICC.
Come and see some of the
International
ICC.
Convention Centre.
Hey, very special guest today, Ben.
We do.
Hey, we have
one of Australia's best.
One of Australia's best. But before we get there, Ben,
mindset minute.
I'm going to do my mindset minute.
Oh my God! Yeah, just say hi. Just say hi. Can we have a hi in the background?
Hi.
There we go. See, there is a guest here.
We're going to have some fun. I can feel it. No, but this might be important for you. I was going to say her name, but that might be giving it away.
Oh my God!
Sometimes, Ben.
Times two.
This is for you.
Through this bit.
This is for you.
Oh, good. Okay.
This is a quote from Mark Black.
Okay.
Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is relax.
Oh, are you saying I don't relax?
Well, let's just say you went on a holiday with your family and you didn't relax. But here's the deal.
I did relax. Don't say it. I still had to finish a few things.
All right, I'm going to include our guest into this part of the conversation. Yeah. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Naomi Findlay is Australia's Rapid Renovation Expert and works with people around the country helping them create wealth and freedom. Now, before I go on a bit more, Ben,
yes,
I just want to talk to you about this, Naomi, because you're very energetic. You've got your fingers in a lot of things. You're educating, you're helping people.
Vivacious.
How do you go?
Thanks, lovely.
How do you go with taking vacations and relaxing?
No, I'm all good with that, hey.
Oh, yeah? Got that dialed in?
Yeah, totally dialed in. So I'm all good with the whole relaxing, because I find when I relax, my business brain explodes and it's amazing. So if I don't relax and I sit in hustle, I actually miss heaps of opportunities. So I actually see the relaxing part and hanging with the fam, drinking champagne, kicking soccer balls, playing rugby, that sort of stuff. I actually find that is so essential to business.
Can you sit by the pool and just lie there, or do you have to have some form of input? Yeah.
I can. I've done some yoga retreats and meditation retreats from Knowledge Talk, which is pretty hardcore.
Yes.
But for me...
I'm going to go on one of them.
Really? It's really quite cool. There's one not far from Sydney.
Anyway, a friend of mine runs one.
That's awesome.
She's been at me to go.
But I do have to take a journal, because otherwise my head hurts.
Yeah.
So I can be without a device and I can be without input, but I have to have somewhere for output. So I can write into a journal and then switch back off.
Well, this is my point, Naomi, right? Because you just proved my point there. It's like, I can relax, ... but
yes,
I need a journal, right?
Yes.
And that's the point. So sometimes the most productive thing you can do is relax. So we just went on separate annual leaves with our families. And
you mean not together?
Not together. No, we'd kill each other. But
no.
I got a little bit panicky, right? Because I'm forever learning, absorbing, taking stuff in. And then the idea of just sitting by the pool was really
numbing.
And I just knew what my wife was going to say. If I bring a swag full of books and stuff, she'd be going, "No, this is meant to be relaxing." So what I did is I listened to heaps of podcasts, I watched lots of YouTube videos, and I was actually relaxed. We fanged around the island, we did lots of really cool stuff. But then when I was sitting by the pool...
Did you say fang?
Fang, yeah.
I love that. I love that, fanged about.
Yeah. Have you done a motorbike in Bali? It's like you're up on the curb, you're in front, it's like they just
Dodging,
do not have rules.
Monkeys.
They do not have rules.
Sorry, that's just a cool word.
That's not just
So the thing is, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is relax. For me, what I worked out is I just need to, for me to relax, I need to move forward. I need to be moving forward. So if you've got a journal, at least your body is relaxing, but your mind is moving forward.
That's right.
So for some people,
of my best ideas happen in my downtime.
Yep.
100%.
Some of my best ideas are in a plane when I can't get phone signal, I can't get the internet, it's just me and my thoughts.
Yeah, I have a theory on that. I actually reckon that our planes are the most productive spaces, and I reckon it's something to do with the velocity our cells are travelling at.
You are? Wow.
Yeah, like I find the productivity and the frequency of energy on a plane, I think that is not being able to be on Wi-Fi, well, in most Australian planes, but I also find there's something about the hum and the velocity and the vibration that we're travelling at that, I think there's a research project.
Well, you are going at 800 k's an hour.
You're banging.
You're banging, exactly. Now, you are the author of the best-selling book, Ignite Your Property Mojo.
Yes.
Hey, you talk about fanging. There's throw a little mojo in there.
Yeah.
And selling your property for more. And you've also got a television show. Tell us more.
I do. So, we've got a couple of things. We have the Reno show. So it's a digital TV series every Thursday night. And that purely is literally to talk about all things renovation and amazing guests and amazing products. But yes, I recently, last weekend, I'm the host of a show on 9. Location, lifestyle, living.
Yeah. Which is great. And you're with Craig Rosevere, who's been on this very couch.
No, Rosie's been here.
Yeah.
He had him on.
He was
a Novo. How did you have a Novo here, Novo Castrian?
Well, he was part of All Guest that we had last year. And so he's obviously with Damien.
Rosie's cool.
Damien Cooley, and then we had Damien Cooley on, and then that led to us being connected with Craig. He was a legend.
I love it. Trying to get Damien Cooley, he's coming up for one of we've been having block viewing parties. He's going to pop to my house one Sunday soon.
Is he?
Have a bevy on my lounge and watch the block with me.
Okay.
Which will be fun.
Well, he put a little photo up on Insta the other day about how he's getting all tailored up for his block appearance, so he takes it very seriously.
I'll tell you what, he's a record winner there. Like
if I was a contestant, I'd get him on.
Yeah, no slouch, that boy.
Come auction.
So what's the television show about?
The television show is all literally, so it's not a property show.
Yep.
It's about location, it's about lifestyle, and it's about how we live in the different spaces, and so it's different suburbs are getting spotlighted, mainly in New South Wales at the moment.
Yep.
And it's truly about, showcasing the amazing things that we have. So there's property in there, there's open homes, there's development, but there's also, beautiful colour pieces about local markets, about local heroes. So, we have some really great people in our country that deserve to be showcased and are truly connected to the community they live in. So it's all about that jazz.
How much time investment was that for you? Was it?
It's current.
Yes.
It's a current investment. And so at the moment, filming's pretty hardcore for it. So, I'm down here this week, so I had 3 days earlier. I've got a week next week, a week after, and then I'm out. We're off to build our school in Cambodia, so.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You are busy. I had to milk the snake this week for my VT,
for your show?
which and let's keep it sort of PG, Ben. I must admit, I walked into a room full of 200 snakes. And I was feeling pretty brave because I'm thinking...
I'm not feeling brave right now.
Well, here's the deal. You go, no one's going to let me in here unless it's safe commercially, right? There's 2 cameras around.
Insurance would kill them.
That's right. And then he's talking me through it. And then all of a sudden he opened the door and it was there was 2 of the top 5 most deadly snakes in the world were in the room. And he pulls one out and I'm like... I just was not prepared for the adrenaline that just kicked in.
What happened in your body when that happened? Mate, heart rate?
Well, I'll tell you what did happen because they get the venom out and all that sort of stuff. And it's like bungee jumping. I don't know if you've been bungee jumping.
Well,
I walked up the first time. I looked down. I thought if my mates went down the bottom, I would walk back down.
If they weren't going to laugh at you.
But in the end, I jumped. And once you've bungee jumped, you go, let me do it again. Let me do it again. So it's like that. So we did 2 snakes, which was
that's hardcore.
Cool. So you'll have to check out the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to have to check out yours.
Well, you're going to have to tell us when it's on. He was just asking, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, because I'm not allowed to announce it, right? But old mate here, he's hosting on Saturday. You all got your own show.
No, I'm not hosting. I'm just coming on to give
He's
my
a humble
opinion.
man, isn't he, Ivan?
You're co-hosting.
No, not even that. No, they want me to talk about property. I'll talk about property. I can do that.
I love your work. It's like me. I can talk about Reno. Let's just talk about Reno. Let's talk about property.
Well, good
Let's
segue.
not talk about big things.
Good segue. So
good job, Naomi.
Naomi loved it. So let's go back.
Yes.
Backstory is always good for us.
Yeah.
So
Nova Castrian always lived.
Yeah, born and bred Novo, hey.
Yeah.
I did leave, which is I think the reason that I've come back because I realise how amazing it is. Great for family, great for property, great for lifestyle. So I am a Novo. Grew up there. I originally trained in medical radiation science. I worked in oncology for quite a long time. did my PhD in medical science, and then kind of
So we should be calling you doctor?
Technically, my name is Dr. Naomi Findlay. I'm not taking the piss.
Yeah.
Technically, but let's not tell anyone.
Yeah.
All my tradies, they're hilarious on site. They're like, hey, doc. I'm like, I won't answer you.
Wow, there's a nickname now, Ben.
Yeah, doc,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, and then I kind of went, wow, I loved property, and I started working in property whilst I was still lecturing and teaching.
Yeah.
And I realised one of the things working in oncology for such a really long time taught me is life's really bloody short, you know, and it's not about how long you live, it's not about where you end up, it's about what you do in the way, you know.
Yep.
And so I figure that my first sort of 18, 20 years in the working world was to prepare me for what I really wanted to do. And hence I got into property.
There we go.
But what
Found
was
your love, found your passion.
so
Yeah.
from oncology to property? What was the first year in property?
Great. So it was renovating. So I'd started renovating myself. I had a property portfolio. Then I started flipping, and then I established a property styling business, a bricks and mortar business. And so that was probably 9 years ago now, and that was my first venture into property because I noticed that, you know, people needed support. Like there were piles of people like me renovating and flipping and doing really well at it, but they needed the support of property styling, which in a regional area we didn't have. And so I first got into it very much from my own perspective, very entrepreneurial in that sense, and then went, you know what, I'll actually go into the business of property as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but you went from oncology to renovations. Was there an overlap?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I hustled like you wouldn't believe for about 3 years.
Yeah.
So for about 3 years I worked. It was after child number 3, before child number 4, or during. And so I worked in oncology of a day. So I'd be lecturing of a day, and I'd be renovating and mumming and property styling of a night and of a weekend.
Wow.
So there was a massive overlap because I didn't, you know, like most people, like most of your listeners, they don't get to wake up one day and go, I'm going to live my dream and stuff the bills and, you know, throw it to the wind. You know, they have to have a plan.
Yeah.
So I kind of went, this isn't my gig anymore. I was 30. I went, I actually want something different for the next 30 years of my life. But I had to have a plan. I didn't just, you know,
And a supporting partner. You'd have to.
Yeah, absolutely. They were supportive in the sense of you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very much, you know.
Correct. Yeah.
And that, you know what, and also I guess he knew that there was a science behind it. He knew that I wasn't just throwing it to the wind, you know, that I'd investigated it, that I had runs on the board, that I'd sought support, I had a great team, all that sort of stuff. So it was very calculated, I guess you would say, and very planned.
Yep.
But yeah, just really supportive of...
We've got this. You know, let's have a go.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
And also putting, this is a bit of a random, but putting things in place like every business venture, like you guys would, we put a check and measure. We go, right, might this work, mightn't this work? Let's do it for a year, let's do it for 2 years, and these are the goals that we have to meet if we're going to continue it, you know? And so, you know, it's not a forever thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we've done the research, this is a winner, but let's have a check and measure to make sure we don't end up down sort of
a pathway we don't want to do.
Exactly, to bring us back to focus.
Yeah, cool.
Let's talk about the timeline because you know, renovation is something that is part of the, you know, the vernacular of anyone who's involved with property. But back when you started, was it as easy to do as it sort of is now? There's lots of courses available now. There's lots of mentors. There's lots of virtual mentors.
Yep.
Who did you use as a mentor? How did you cut your teeth?
Great question. So I found a bloke.
Yep.
So I found a bloke and I found a team. So how it started initially is I was doing it on my own properties. When I started my bricks and mortar business, I realised that I had a real knack for floor planning and for, you know, champagne look on beer budget and understanding the market and understanding how to squeeze that. And so I actually started working for a lot of other people that were renovators and property developers. And one of them, there was probably 2 of them that I found that I had a great relationship with, and we worked on so many properties together. And so I had to actually seek out a mentor at that time because it wasn't, you're right, it wasn't formulaic. Like at the moment, someone can go get training, they can go get education, and there's everything they need to think about and everything they need to consider and all the steps they need. Back then, it's like I'd stuff up, I'd go, okay, I won't do that again. You know, I'd lose money on something, okay, I won't do that again. You know, it was very much, it was iterative and, you know, lesson-based learning. It was life-based learning. So I found myself a mentor, and I did things at volume. And so it meant that I got to make a mistake, change, test, make a mistake, change, test. So that's kind of how I had to cut my teeth.
Yeah. So what was something that you cut your teeth on back then and made a mistake?
Yep.
That you would sort of say to someone who's considering doing it. What's the one thing that they should make sure that you don't go
I've
down
only
this
ever
path?
broken even once on a property. So I've done 114, and on one property I broke even on. Every other one I've made a profit on.
Yeah.
And the one that I broke even on, I was too emotionally invested. You know, I was, you know, my creative soul took over a little bit too much, yeah. And I'm like, but if I just, you know, put in that set of doors, and if I just imagine how beautiful and...
Yeah.
Budget.
How do you coach people around? Because that emotion is a natural thing. You like those taps, you like those tile. How do you... Like that's hard to override.
It is really hard to override, but it is truly one of the secret keys. If you're going to renovate to create wealth, it is one of the things that you have to master. If you can't master that, stop. Like literally stop now. If you want to renovate to create a different type of wealth, like, you know, just enjoyment in life, and you're happy to break even on every project because you just love the creative process, that's different. But if you actually want to create equity, increase rental yield, profit, like cold hard cash, you actually have to tap that on the head. And part of it is about knowing who your market is and constantly asking yourself, will this add value to my market? If it won't, it doesn't get a gig. And like when you're in the middle of renovating, for me, people that you need to know you're going to make a profit before you touch it, before you even offer on it. There is no use licking stamps. That's a bit of a fang word, isn't it? No use licking stamps and offering on a property if you don't know you can make money off it. It's ridiculous. And so for me, often when I'm working with students and they'll be like, can we just imagine how cool? And I'm like, is it budgeted? They're like, no. I'm like, are you under budget? No. Then it doesn't go in. It's that simple. So it's about having checks and measures, questions that you ask yourself. So every time an idea or something pops into your head, you actually go, will it get me more money? Am I under budget and I can afford to spend on it? And will it add value to my end user, whoever the end user is? If it's no to any of those, out. You just have to suck that up.
Because that's why it's important to have someone like you to mentor. Because if you think about one of the core needs that a person has is that need for variety or uncertainty. And if they have like they're an oncologist or their version of oncologist that they want to get out of, and they want to do something new, it's actually exciting and sexy, and they watch the block and they see the reno shows. And so if they actually don't get that first one right, it's almost like you know, the need for variety takes over. They then do it, and then I think I can't remember if we were on air or off here, but you talked about a student who before they met you, they lost a lot of money on the renovation because there is an excitement and a joy and a feeling of momentum that comes from renovating, isn't it? And then you get at the end, you go to your account and you go, what do you mean? I didn't make any money.
And those ones that don't make the money don't make the magazines, do they? Or they don't make the case studies anywhere, do they?
No, they don't make the case studies. And one of the things we were talking about before the show is about the biggest horror stories. And for me, it truly is like it's saddening and gut-wrenching and sickening to think about people losing money on when they're flipping. You know, when it's not driven by a massive crash in a market, or it's not driven by something external to them they had no control over, because there's actually no need for it, you know. And people do, like, renovating's pumpy, you know, it's exciting because you've got the searching phase. It's so like dating, everything. There's a dating analogy for everything, guys. So it's, you know, when you get really excited and you're like, I'm going to get all hot stuffed up, put some lippy on, go out, I'm going to search for the right property. And then when you find it, you court it and you make offers and you skirt around it, and then you nab it and you get a snog in the bar and they're interested, and so you're like, I'm on a winner, and then you're in that first honeymoon period, which is during the renovation, and like all these good juju feelings that we're all feeling, remembering when we were young or when we first met our partners, like they have all those emotive feelings, which when the adrenaline and the emotion goes up, generally our intelligence goes down, you know, and our intention, well, exactly, so you all laughed because you know in the dating world your intelligence went down, and it hasn't recovered since. And so it's really important, like often people can get carried away, and like that lady that you talked about before, she was a student of mine. When I made her do her figures on her previous renos, and she was like, I actually lost money. I'm like, how did that happen? And it's because when they're in that exciting honeymoon phase, that's before the divorce of doing the budget and finding out that you actually lost money.
And they've got extra money in the bank, so they think, so, you know, human behaviour around money, we feel a lot more safer when there's access to money. So
Yes.
all right, well, that $800 tap system, $1,600 tap. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It looks so good.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. So for me, it's around trying to not numb those sensations, because that's part of the fun, right? Like get all that good juju and all those good sensations, but have checks and measures and a framework in place that you can have all those good sensations, but you're bouncing around a box that's going to keep you safe. And for me, that's the joy of renovating, when you can do it and get that variety and get that change of scenery and transformation and know that you're in a safe space.
Yeah.
Not always like dating.
No. No, you talked before about champagne and beer budgets.
Yep.
What's some of the go-tos that you go for to help people actually get that wow look that
Some
comes
rule
from
of thumbs or
something just one or two things where they can get that without spending so much.
So I'm a massive fan of high-low renovating. So it comes from the fashion world, apparently. Not up for fashion myself, prefer boots and stuff, but where you have a hero piece. So have a hero piece that creates a focal point in a room, whether it's an amazing pendant, whether it's an amazing armchair, whether it's an amazing feature wall, and then you bring in low budget things. Low budget doesn't mean low quality either. Low budget or low price point things in underneath it to support it. So a great analogy is in a garden. Spend on a feature tree that's taller than you and then underplant it with tube stock, and 12 weeks later when you're ready to sell, or 6 weeks later when you're ready to sell or rent, they would have come up just a little bit. And so that's one of the big hacks. The next one is you can add amazing perceived value by really considering your design. So it doesn't have to have, literally, if we ran a test right here and I put a $400 tap and a $100 tap in front of you, I reckon without touching them, neither of you will be able to tell the difference. I truly believe that. And it's actually our own notion in our head about what we think we need to put in. As long as they're quality items, you need to really ask yourself, is there a difference? And so for me, a lot of the value you can punch into your renos is around them being very considered in regard to their function. Because no longer do people just go, stuff's pretty, I'm going to use it. We have really astute buyers and really astute tenants. They want function. So making sure that all the functions of your target market are there and that the place feels considered. It needs to feel very considered, like you've taken care of every last detail. Simple things like there should be no resemblance of any form of renovation when a buyer comes to a site. There should be no strips of paint. There should be no marks. There should be no paint tins in the garage. It's an experience that you're selling or that you're leasing, Not
we want them buying with their hearts, not their heads, to get the best price out of the result.
And when you're providing them a highly functional place that engages with their hearts, then it's a massive win for them and it's a massive win for you.
And so over the journey, how important now has been that indoor-outdoor area in terms of connecting to that?
Mind-blowing. So there was a pile of research done that I got handed down through some work I did with Monia, because they're very environmental. And one of the top 3 things now that people are looking for when they're buying properties is actually indoor-outdoor living. And so it's like literally up there with a great kitchen and a great bathroom now. And
is that the top 3?
Absolutely. And so for me, I'm a massive believer in space medicine. I'm a massive believer in, and there's a pile of science behind it, which we probably don't have time for today, but around we can actually create spaces that nurture us and affect our physiology, our brain chemistry, our ability to connect and communicate, our ability to have relationships, our overall well-being. And so part of what I use space medicine for in my renos is actually to connect people with nature. And when we do on a primitive level and on a subconscious level, we get releases of endorphins, just like dating, releases of endorphins that make us feel amazing. And so it is just not essential because everyone wants it. It's actually essential because it means that you're providing spaces for people that they just get nurtured in.
So what are some of the classics? The first one for me, and it had to go into our reno, the natural fireplace. So I wanted to see natural flame. So that was really important. Natural light. The house needed to be lit with natural light. And in terms of open spaces, so I can see water. So if I can get light, water and fire all in one thing, I can create memories in that location.
Yeah, mate. That's the ultimate scar.
He'll be beating your chest and pulling out a club soon.
Well, he drags his knuckles into the office. So.
No, it's actually really important. So some of the key elements of space medicine are one, connect with nature. Yep. So in your circumstance, you're connecting it by horizon and by water view. Yep. You're connecting it by natural flame because there'd be timber in the fire. Yep. And your other one was, what was your other one?
Or light.
Light. Yeah. See, that's a must. It's an absolute must. And there's other really cool things you can do with texture and with colour that can help integrate your indoor-outdoor spaces and give you that indoor feeling outdoors and that outdoor feeling indoors, because that's what it's about. It's no longer, did you guys remember growing up when your mum or dad used to go, we're going to have a barbie at Saturday night, you need to go clean the furniture and you need to go like get rid of all the cobwebs and ragbacks, because no one lived indoor outdoor back then, you know.
You went through a single door and it was cooked out on the back patio.
Through the laundry.
Yes, it was through the laundry.
Absolutely.
Totally. Whereas it's no longer just a deck tacked on with some timber furniture you need to oil. It's an integrated way to live.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hey, is your philosophy to one of three things: reno and sell, reno and hold, or read the play?
So for me, it's all about working with your overall portfolio. And so it's important to have great advisors around you that can go, right, where your portfolio, whether it be a property portfolio or a property and wealth portfolio sitting, right now it's best for you to do this or to do that. So for me, I see there are quite a few exit strategies. And for me personally and with my students, I encourage them to look at all of them in their renovation portfolio, so to speak. So sometimes I might be like, I'm just going to quick flip this one. There's money in it, there's this, there's that. Others I might buy, hold if I could get some growth, then renovate. Others I might buy, renovate, lease, or if I already have them in my portfolio, I might release them to get increased equity to release for elsewhere or increased rental yield. So for me, it's important that people don't view renovating as flipping. Like it's not just flipping. It's actually ways to increase your existing wealth. It's ways to increase your existing portfolio. It's ways to increase equity, free up capital if you choose to. Like there's piles of uses for it. So for me, it has to be really customised, super customised.
And look, we are seeing potentially some changes to the laws around capital gains tax. So if Labor get in, we now go down from a 50% capital gains exemption down to a 25%. So effectively, we're going to be paying tax on 75% of the profit that we make, right? So that's crazy in terms of, so that's got to come into your thinking.
It has to. You have to actually have calculated it all the way to your end strategy. It's not just about the reno. You actually, when you're doing your calculations, calculate it all the way to your end strategy to find out what's going to come into your pocket at the end of the day.
And do you have views on structures in terms of tax structures, companies versus individual versus all of those types of things?
Yeah, look, people ask me that all the time.
Well, it's an important
It is really important. And my big thing on this is you have to have someone that consults on that on your team all the time. So it's not just about setting up, lots of people go, and I'm just making this up, don't take this,
I've been told I need a trust, I've been told I need...
And that's the voice. I need a trust, and I need a company,
Where's the dating analogy in that?
Yeah, the dating analogy. I've been told...
That's
okay, let's not go there. No.
That's when you move on to the next one.
Exactly. Oh, if I could high five you right now, I would. So for me, it's about, you can't be in a renovating for wealth business or venture unless you have someone expertly feeding in on every single renovation on that. So, if I've got one coming up, I'll contact my consulting team and I'll be like, hey, I'm looking at this one. I'm looking at it as a flip. There's probably this much money in it. What entity do you want me to buy it in? What structure do you want me to buy it in? I've bought and sold renovations in so many different structures and types that have suited my overall picture.
So it's case by case, isn't it?
Case by case, literally.
It's tailored solution for everyone.
It has to be tailored,
But these are the headwinds we've got, right? We've got capital gains, we've got negative gearing, and now, in terms of trust structures, distributions.
Plus depreciation.
So family trust, so discretionary trust now. So in discretionary trust, you have the ability to distribute, right? The Labor Party are actually saying no longer will there be a it's just 30% tax. So if you've got a member in your trust structure who doesn't earn income or whatever, no longer can they get that tax-free threshold in terms of that, what is it, I think it's $19,800.
That's a bit devastating, hey?
So it's little things like they are cleaning labour.
I got 4 kids, that's devastating.
So that's not good. So, and the frustrating part about that is that when we get to these types of situations, that uncertainty, because obviously it's not law yet, right?
Yes.
But that uncertainty stops us from doing things. So
paralyzes people.
Correct. And it's like energy, and it's like all of these other big issues that we've got in terms of we haven't invested in energy or efficient energy because there hasn't been any policy. Because there hasn't been any direction around, sort of clean energy versus dirty, whatever. It's the same for us property investors right now. We're starved of understanding what the story looks like. And we
and so how can you make your chess moves when you have no idea of what's ahead? And for me, that's why it's so essential that you have experts like feeding into your planning. It's like, it is a key. There's there's so many, there are horror stories out there of people renovating and they've made a profit, and because they didn't set themselves up well, because they didn't manage everything well, that they actually end up losing their profit. And so for me, my point on that is you need expert team on that. 100%.
And so
it's bespoke.
In that case, it is about some tax advice and structuring advice.
100%.
So you go off and get that from your chartered accountant, your general accountant who's qualified to give that type of advice.
Absolutely.
Are you observing, you know how you've got cosmetic...
You're thinking a lot about this question.
Oh, well, I had a sort of look to the left look, didn't I?
You did.
But in terms of, you've got cosmetic and structural. Structural's where you can get the big coin. Is there, in your experience and what you've observed, much money to be made in cosmetic flipping, given the fact that you do have to give it away to the agent, you do have to give it away to capital gains tax. You're running on thin margins for cosmetics anyway.
Yeah, see, I truly believe that there is in both. So I'm a bit different, obviously. I'm wearing polka dots. I believe that there's actually...
You're in fashion, but you've got these funky shoes on.
And polka dots. It's like a circus tent, this number. So I actually believe that there's not pockets. So many people talk about cosmetic versus structural, right? So for me, I'm a very analytic person, even though I'm creative in the sense that I'm like, well, where are the lines, dudes? Like, if there's one and the other, where's the line and what falls in one and what falls in the other? And for me, people that view and go into reno saying, I'm only going to do cosmetic or I'm only going to do structural, they actually will often miss the biggest value they can add in a property. I believe that there's actually a continuum, and you need to obviously start where you feel most comfortable, which people usually start towards the cosmetic end. But if you go into things going, I'm only doing cosmetic, and there's a house that literally, if you had put a wall up, you could have made a third bedroom, then you actually miss that because you're wearing blinkers. So I do believe, though, back to your question, so I believe there's actually a continuum, and what you need to do on every single property that you go to flip, you need to actually assess multiple plans of attack. And you need to go, cool, this is my must do, this is my I could do, and this is probably what I should do in the middle. How much are my budgets? What will my end products for each of those yield for me? So where's my biggest profit? Because it's often quite surprising. You'll sometimes think that it's going to be in the big, badass structural one, because I'm going to double the size, I'm going to extend, I'm going to do all this. But once you factor in your council fees, your certifying fees, your additional holding costs, a bigger budget because you're dealing with more materials, and more trades and bigger contingency, that you actually work out once you put all that in, it's maybe not your best option. So I actually believe people need to have quite a fluid approach and quite a formulaic approach rather than a templated approach. But I do still see people making really solid money. So my last one was a purely cosmetic renovation. And by cosmetic, you probably think it's advanced cosmetic. So there was new kitchen, and there were decks. So it wasn't just a paint stuff and walk out. But I was able to add amazing value. And so I walked out of that with 44K in 5 weeks, and I didn't work on site. And I'm pretty happy with that level of cash flow without working on site. I was actually touring. So it was great.
Yeah, happened whilst you were away.
Happened whilst I was away.
So we obviously have a lot of listeners who are not necessarily in renovating for their own investment returns, but also just they might be thinking about renovating their own home. Do you take a different approach to renovating your own home versus a different approach to renovating for profit?
Great question. So there is naturally a bit of the emotional buy-in and a bit of the love, you know. I do always like people though to keep in mind, because we don't ever want to over or under capitalise. Under capitalising I think is even worse than over capitalising. So
because you've got to do it again.
Yeah, or you literally make yourself unsaleable.
Yeah.
Like literally if people under capitalise, it's like, well, that's great, but no one wants that at that price point, dude. I can't sell your house. So if someone's renovating for themselves, the only big change is that you need to put more weight behind what you want. But the process shouldn't change.
Yes.
You know, so the working out your different plans of attack, I still like people to work out different budgets. You know, this is what my minimum would be, this is what my dream home would be, this is something in the middle, and then seek advice about what your value would be at the end. Because in an ideal world, even though we're renovating for our dream home, we don't want to be left sitting in the red from a value perspective. And it's not from a doomsday kind of, because you never know what's going to happen, you might have to sell your place. It's from a, you never know what's going to happen, you might get an offer to go live on an island for the rest of your life. You know, like there might be an amazing thing that happens. So I think the process is still the same, but you just give more weight because you're the end user to what you want.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. I mean,
still need to keep a rein on that budget though.
The reality is, as you know, I did a budget, did a reno, and
well,
I blew the budget.
He did do a budget.
I did the budget. And I made some classic mistakes. You know, I went for cost plus, and because the time frame blew out, the wage cost blew out. That was where I lost most of them. And the materials themselves didn't cost me any more. Okay, where we lost time was not being firm on our tradies, and also, you know, so that delayed the process. So we had 2 or 3 builders on site costing us, you know,
a lot.
$2,000.
Why didn't you get Naomi in?
Well, good question.
Taskmaster, Naomi.
That's right. Let's just say we didn't project manage our project managers well.
Yes.
That's gold.
Yeah, that's true.
You've done 114 renovations. I'd be interested in a rough rule of thumb: house, townhouse, apartments in that mix.
Mainly house.
Yeah, and is
mainly
that
house and unit, but mainly house, to be honest.
Is that circumstantial?
Concentration in like all New South Wales, or have you gone?
Yeah, mainly New South Wales.
Yeah.
Most of mine are.
Yep.
My students obviously are all around the country, but my renos, because you know, if you're going to renovate and you're going to make a business out of it, it needs to work with your lifestyle. And so it needs to be a location and a patch that meets all the requirements from an analytic perspective, and also that's not going to cause you to get divorced or your children to go, where's my mother, during that process. And so for me, absolutely, most of them are in New South Wales.
Was that circumstantial houses, or is that it's like a strategy? By that I mean, was there opportunities for you to see older townhouses or anything like that, or is it just you've purely focused on houses as part of your strategy?
Well, no, so for me, part of it's about what your patch will offer you. And so when you find an area that's got all the right analytics for you, it's like, well, what is the house that's most commonly buying and selling in this area? And so there were some areas that absolutely fruited units. There were other areas that fruited cottages, and there were other parts of my patch that fruited really large houses. And so it depended, I found that it depended on the part of my patch or my focus area as to what type of house that I was renovating at that time, if that makes sense.
It does. And did hubby get involved, or has he been doing his work? Because that's the big challenge. Cash flow's always tight when you're starting out, isn't it? So, I mean, I remember when I started this business, you know, over 10, 12 years ago, Jane was working, right?
Yes.
So that allowed us to have a cash flow that was coming through.
Yes.
Is that something that you
So when I first started, he was working, and then about 3 years later, he came to work for me. So...
Is that how you talk about work together, or work
No. He worked for me. Oh. Let's just be very clear. And he, you know, what was so hilarious though, and I'm not absolutely having a gender conversation here at all. I'm not meaning that, but what was hilarious is, you know, if there was ever a time where he'd be on site or he'd bring a baby over for me to breastfeed or whatever it might be, and the trades would naturally gravitate to him, and he'd be like, dude, ask her. Like, seriously, do I look like I know what I'm doing? You know, it was quite funny.
Yeah, very good. So he didn't come from building or anything?
No, he's from corporate.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, one thing that'd be good to clear up, just to give our listeners Finance 101 for renovations, because it's amazing how many people think, I've got a budget of 800, I've only spent 750, leaves me 50 over for the renovations. It's not quite like that, but it's like this story I did this week, that's exactly what it was, right? They said,
Really?
So it leaves me a little bit left over to renovate. I go, do you actually know how finance works? Because it doesn't mean you've got 50 grand left over.
Yeah.
No.
So what's some 101 stuff to help people understand, what it takes to get finance from the bank and what it takes to actually cash flow and finance these renovations?
Yeah, so look, there's a couple, for me, obviously not speaking too financy, you have your finance for the purchase of the house, but you also need to make sure that you understand you need them finance for the renovation. And rarely do they come from the same pot, like rarely.
And that is the key, that is the gem, that is the
Was
gold.
that what I meant to say? Because that's what I think.
Well, most people think it does come from the same
No,
pot.
no.
Remember, the value of the property sets the loan to value ratio.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. So it's not, but then you
not
have
your
to go
budget.
back and then have to submit all the improvements for what we call a tentative on completion valuation, which means you try and
That
get
was a mouthful, dude.
Yeah, TOC val.
Okay.
Now we're talking
Now
tech.
I'm going to sound techie at TOC Val.
But a lot of people just need to have other equity available that they
Yes.
can release to do the reno.
But for me, that should be, so, there are a handful of, not a handful, there's actually about 13 foundations you should set up before you start your business. And before that, there's actually setting yourself up for success. And that is getting that team of consultants and understanding your different areas where you can finance from. You might be pulling your reno costs out of a line of credit out of your house. You might be pulling it from an inheritance. It might come from anywhere, but it, generally speaking, doesn't come from the finance for that property. It's a separate pot of cashola, and it might come from a family member. That might be their investment. You might do a little bit of a JV with someone. They might invest for the renovation, but really important that people don't think that they're just going to be able to buy the house and then borrow at the same time off that same house.
Just to clarify, you can borrow up to the 80%. So a lot of people might be thinking, oh, well, wait a minute. So in other words, you can borrow up to 80% without lender's mortgage insurance.
Correct.
So let's say you sold another property and you're moving into this property and there is some surplus cash left over, you can actually go to that 80%.
Yep.
So that sometimes people,
Well,
there can be a little bit left
it's
over.
more about the first home owner who says, I've got a budget of 800, right?
Yeah,
and then we find them something for 725. They go, cool, I've got 75 left over for renovation.
And it's like, no.
No, you
your
don't.
borrowing power was 800,
Yes.
but the value of the house determines
But
exactly
that's
what
my point.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental missing link, which is
Very fundamental missing link.
Yeah.
And it's why that people are actually paying, with our prices in many of the markets around the country at the moment, people are paying for fully renovated homes because they can include it all in that actual bank loan, you know? And that's one of the joys of being a renovator is people are literally wanting homes that there's nothing to do so that they're not left, like you were saying, they're not like, woohoo, I got a 725 house. Wow, where am I going to find 70K or 50K or 30K even, and it can be, it's a really sad spot that people end up in when they think that.
And your students are getting challenged on finance at the moment, I'm assuming? Like some of them have hit their borrowing power wall, or?
Well, to be honest with you, I really encourage people to plan ahead with their finance, have an idea of, so I obviously don't teach in finance at all, but I do encourage people to seek out advisors that can help them plan ahead in their finance.
So forward.
Exactly. That is a perfect analogy. Understand where you're wanting to be in like 3 or 4 chess moves so that we can they can have everything set up now to make sure that's right. And also I love to think really laterally about finance. And the students that do aren't having any dramas right now.
So I'm a beginner. I'm just starting out. What are some of the critical things I need to do? Obviously, one is to check you out and check your courses out and everything like that.
And we'll have all the details in the show notes.
All the details in the show notes. But what are some of the, I'm a beginner. What do I do? How do I get started?
You know what? Before you do anything, you need to actually have an understanding of what your end goal is, realistically. Like, you need to have an understanding of why you're renovating and what your end goal is. If it's because you love that dating adrenaline rush and you're keen just to transform, then make sure you understand your end goal. I think that's absolutely 101.
I don't think you could have said that any better, because it's exactly the same for us when we sit down and do planning. So obviously when we build portfolio plans, if they go, I want to do some renovations, I don't want to get all involved, I said, what if I could show you that you could just buy 4 good houses and continue enjoying your life, and you're going to have the passive income there? Oh.
Exactly.
As opposed to coming back. But no, if you love what you're doing and or you're not happy in your life and you want to pivot and do these other things, There's an element of that. If you're determined to do it, you'll make it work.
And so it's about knowing why you want to renovate, knowing what your end goal is. Is renovating part of that? Does it have to be part of that? And then starting to be honest with you, it's about seeking information. You're not playing with corn chips when you're renovating. You know, you're playing with big assets, big investments. It shouldn't be entered into lightly, and it shouldn't be viewed like it is in a reality TV show.
So it's not for everyone sometimes.
It's not. No.
What? It shouldn't be viewed like it is in a reality TV show?
I'll just hide under the table.
Come on, surely they all make money on reality TV shows.
I'm sure I've said to myself,
I'm out now, hey.
How hard is that for you to see that's the Instagram sort of view of renovating, whereas you're trying to teach them the reality is not that. It doesn't get cut up and produced to an nth of its degree. It's real. You've got to manage problems.
Which often means that it looks unsexy, hey? Like when I teach renovation, sometimes it's really unsexy because I'm like, that's a great idea. I actually was working with a mentoring client this morning and she's like, so we're going to do this and what's your vision for there? And I'm like, I actually want you to reverse to a really unsexy stage. I want to see scopes. I want to see budgets. I want to see post-renovation values, and then I'll share my ideas with you. So I took it from like hot reality TV to badass, unsexy flannel PJs.
I don't know anyone who has been knee-deep in a room, painting rooms that didn't say themselves internally, in their internal voice, this is officially shite. Like, I do not know of anyone who sits there and painting a roof or painting a wall and going, oh my God, I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
It just does not happen.
I'm fulfilling my dreams. Get those fumes.
You are one of those people.
I'm one of those people. I'm like, oh my God, look at the paint. But you know what I like better than painting a wall? I love watching someone else paint it.
Yeah, there's my point. I'm very happy for someone
Clever
else.
renovators.
Hey, the challenge is we could talk for hours, but one thing I want to just give away for the listeners before we go today is we were talking off air about the planning to execution and the gap that often exists between that. Can we dig a little deeper there?
It's so huge. Even when you see amazing people and they've planned and they've Pinterest and Insta'd and they've budgeted and they've had everyone in and they have all best intentions. They really do. A bit like someone we know in the room, yeah? They have
I had a vision, had my vision board.
Yeah. And you would have had all your costings lined up, you would have had an Excel, yeah?
We had quotes.
Yep, totes.
We just didn't lock them in.
Yeah. And then what often happens though is during that rush and during, if you don't have a solid team that you know really, really well, and even if you do, your job is to manage the execution. You know, and that is whether you can do it remotely, that's fine because technology is amazing, but you need to be across that. You need to be across constantly every day. Like you were talking a minute ago about how you had to like shuffle different people. A lot of people, when someone says, I can't come today, I can come tomorrow, they go, okay. For me, I then go look at my Gantt chart because I'm a dork and I'm like, right, who can I slip into there? And if I shuffle them there, I can still reach my goal at the end on time, but you have to be across it. Execution of your vision is another essential key. It doesn't happen on its own, and that includes execution of your budget.
And be willing to sack. We were too slow in sacking a couple of our tradies.
100%. Be willing to support, be willing to celebrate, be willing to cut loose where's not serving you.
Giving 10 reminders and understanding and no. Don't do it.
Are you still running an Excel spreadsheet, or have you got some software for your
budgets?
I
use all my app now.
Yeah, and so that you can, because we were talking again off air, we should do it on air, where you're saying you need to know where you're spending today, not sort of catch up 6 weeks
100%.
later.
100%. So, because sometimes right in the middle of a reno, like in a 5-week reno, I can easily dump 15K in a week. And so I can't be waiting till the end of the week to do that. So that's why, one of the reasons why I developed the app, and it's free, so anyone can use it.
Cool.
And it's around that every single day I can see the line items of what I budgeted for. I can then put in what I spent on those, and I can graphically see how I'm tracking. Am I going to be on? Am I going to be overspending? What am I left to spend? Because that needs to be, like sometimes you might have 5 people on site and an electrician's 95 an hour plus GST, a builder's 65 an hour plus GST. That is a bucket load of money you're dropping in one day. And so you need to be onto that all the time. It's not a sit and look at the end of the renovation, because, you know, realistically renovations sometimes have surprises. That's why we have buffers. But you need to be onto that. You need to manage that as well as you do your site and your team.
So you've done 114, sorry Ben, and in terms of how many of those have been done with the app versus how many in the front end were done with Excel?
So interestingly, that's how the app was actually born, because I used to do everything with Excel. And then around 3 years ago, I developed some software that I had access, just my students had access to it. And it was in the back end and it was software. And to be honest with you, I just got so frustrated with watching people not manage their renos well. So I just created an app version, simplified, because it's still quite heavy because it's a big job, a simplified version for the market. So it was probably, you know, 3 years Excels, 2 years software, and then it took, you know, 2 years to develop the app. So the app's only been out since April.
We're building a little app, aren't we, Bryce?
Oh, that's exciting.
We are building a little app.
We've got a little thing called Money Smarts.
Is it available? Is it live?
It won't. It
Well,
weeks away.
it's
So
imminent.
we're,
Exciting.
Hey,
you just heard that first.
Exclusive.
Sometimes we look at each other and go, what are we like? How many projects can we do at one time? Hey, the free app, what's it called? We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, Rapid Reno Mate.
We'll make sure people can get access to that.
And you mentioned before about your buffers. Do you have a rough rule of thumb for
Absolutely.
buffers?
So anyone who's starting renovating today for the first time, 15% buffer, I recommend. I renovate on a 10% buffer, but that's after a long time, and that'll never go. I will never get rid of my 10% buffer. Ever.
Cool. And that would also be built into the app?
So you should build in a line item as a buffer.
Cool.
Okay, rapid questions quickly. Have you got rules of thumb for percentage of value to spend on kitchens and bathrooms?
Absolutely not, because our trades and our materials vary too much around our country. It does not work in this country.
Okay.
Any other rules of thumb for renovating?
Yep, measure 3 times, cut once, employ slow, sack fast. And enjoy the journey, dudes.
I like it.
Last one, return on investment. What's the percentage that you want to get in terms of for the reno and the outcome?
So for me, you need to set as part of one of your line items the money you want to make. And if you can't make that amount of money out of that project, it just doesn't happen.
So 20% or above?
Yeah, well for me, I set a minimum. I don't want to renovate unless I'm going to make 30K in 6 weeks.
Okay.
That's it for me.
So it's a number, it's not necessarily
It's a number,
percentage.
not necessarily a percentage.
Interesting.
Because property values around our country vary mind-blowingly. I bought one for a student the other day at auction on the phone for 80K, and I had another student the other day that bought one for 1.6. So if we set things as a percentage in renovation, it doesn't work around our country.
But are you going to do the 1.6 and only make 30 grand? Like the risk reward is just not there.
So they will probably make around 80 on that.
Okay.
But it's still a quick flip.
Yeah, okay. So it's short-term money, so a percentage of that money over time is going to give you a greater than 20% return over the year.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Because
annualised,
in most cases, we would say to
annualised,
people,
that's the key, hey.
What we'd be talking about is sort of, we wouldn't do that. Like if we were sitting there with a client, they came in and said, we want to renovate here, I say, you're not going to get a 20%. Like I want to see the rough numbers at a 30% ROI. And they can, because I'll fall back to 20.
But it's all about annualised. And so if you can do it in 6 weeks and turn that money back around to earn that for you again and again and again, then it's...
Hence the rapid.
Exactly.
There's ugly houses all over the country.
Everywhere.
So is there just an abundance of opportunity? I mean,
It's actually out of control opportunity because of the 80s boom, right? Remember our 80s property boom where we just built and built and built? They're all becoming really ugly and ugly and uglier. And so you think they're all 30 and 40 years old. Generally people nowadays with some of the house prices, you know, they're looking to buy fully renovated. So there's a glut of ugly stuff going to be coming onto the market, and doesn't even have to be on the market. Remember that.
Yes.
You don't have to just buy on market.
Beautiful.
So it's a winner chicken dinner.
Well said. I think that's a good place
Naomi,
to.
That was great.
Full stop. How good was the energy, Ben?
Fantastic. Energy's always up.
Yes,
around.
I know. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Yes.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys.
It's a pleasure.
And I'll see you in a couple of days anyway.
Yeah, we'll hang out on the weekend. But my life hack today, Ben.
Yes. What do we got?
Is very practical for me.
Okay.
And should be for you as well. Probably for Naomi as well. We're forever on planes, Ben, and so one of my pre-plane routines is very, very simple.
Yes.
As I'm approaching the gate, I'm quickly going onto my podcast and there's
download
some episodes.
Yes.
Because as soon as that flight mode kicks in, Ben,
yes.
I get frustrated if I haven't got anything to listen to. I get fidgety. So that's my life hack today. Build into your routine if you're a frequent flyer to make sure that you're downloading podcasts so that you're queued up.
Beautiful.
It's essential, hey?
It is essential. Yeah, and well, one day there'll be Wi-Fi on aircrafts, but at the moment it's essential.
That's actually my dream because my
All
wife
through
goes...
America, there are dudes.
Yeah, well, there is in America, but...
All through.
But
Are they bringing it in here?
Well, I'm flying to America in November.
We have the podcast on Qantas and Jetstar.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
you're on Qantas and Jetstar,
Qantas and
actually cross out my life hack. It's already there if you're on Qantas and Jetstar. But the thing is, I'm on a 16-hour flight I'm about to fly for 30 hours to get to the States, and I've got so many courses and things that I just need internet to access, even yours. Imagine if all your students are flying.
You got download.
Get it on there. So, did you know?
Did you know a couple of interesting ones for today? The Empire State Building. Mm-hmm. Did you know that the Empire State Building was actually built during the Great Depression?
No, I didn't.
So for a long time there, a lot of those floors in that beautiful building were vacant.
Wow.
So back in the early days, they used to call it the Empty State Building, not the Empire State Building.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's it. That's true. All right. A couple of others. Here we go. There's a 5-story pagoda building in, now here we go. So a pagoda is one of those beautiful sort of temples that we see in Japan. And forgive my Japanese here in terms of whether I'm pronouncing the right area.
Oh, this will be good. It'll sound French, but go on.
Yeah, this is like my old sign-offs, right? Yeah. Hojiju. Hojiju. That's how you Japanese, Hajime.
Oh yeah, no, you sounded Japanese.
Okay, so in terms of that, so I did a little bit for those people who know Japanese. I was just introducing myself very politely. Okay, so the oldest wooden building on Earth. Okay, now they know this because the timber that's being used to harvest to build this was 600 AD.
Get out of town.
Get out of town. You think someone tempted with a match? Well, I tell you what, don't you dare.
Yes.
Don't you dare.
That'd have to be guarded.
But that is amazing, right? And then the last one.
Oh, we've got more.
Speaking of timber constructions.
Hey mate, just a little life hack for you. Yeah. Some weeks you're scrambling to come up with it. Did you know? Now you're rattling off 4. You could have.
No, this is the third one. You can't even count. I've only done.
It sounded like 4.
Boom! I've done the empty state. All right. The world's largest tree house. How tall? How big? What is it? How many rooms? Largest tree house.
I don't know. You should have stopped at 2.
10. 10.
Keep going.
No.
80 rooms, 10 floors, and took 14 years to build.
Where?
The world's largest. Now this is where the research I haven't done. I just got that.
Dude.
Right, so I don't even know where it is, but we'll have it in the show notes.
You don't even know
where it is. Check it out.
You haven't even prepared.
That is an incomplete date, isn't it?
That's not true. I just told you the world's largest. You don't have to know where it is.
We'll need to put subtitles up, mate, just to close the story loop on this one. So
check the show notes, and it'll be in the show notes.
Subtitles.
So there you go, Bryce. There's your 3, not 4. Your 3 did you knows for the week.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the counting lesson. Hey, one last thing, Ben. Yep. The book is imminent.
Yes.
Make Money Simple Again.
Make Money
imminent.
Simple Again.
Oh, and what a title!
So are we taking
Financial Peace in less than 10 minutes a month? That's the subtitle.
That is a cool title and subtitle, gents.
So
we didn't even pay you for that. Thank you for
pre-order.
So
send me the link.
So if you go to the funny you should ask that, Ben. It's like we rehearsed this, even though we didn't. thepropertycouch.com.au/MMSA.
Oh God, MMSA. Is that what it is?
Make money simple again.
Okay,
Ben.
just remember that.
Should we make URLs simple again?
Can you make both of the URLs?
All right, you make a suggestion. Come on.
No, that's good. I just said add another one. So if you do the Make Money Simple Again, so /Make Money Simple Again, or the MMSA, you'll find it.
Do we have to do it like that though? MMSA.
So he had his finger out, didn't he?
There you go for old cranky pants over here. We'll have 2. So it's /MMSA and /Make Money Simple Again.
Or the book title.
Get on the wait list, Ben, because if the people who are on that wait list, we will let them have a discount.
Oh.
We don't know what it is yet. We don't know what it is yet. But they will, because they're on that wait list, we'll let them be the first to know.
Committed people.
And they won't have to pay full tote.
I like it.
Full tote. That's so consider it a locked-in discount, Ben.
Locked-in discount.
It's coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of your pocket, but it's locked-in discount. So
love it. Good stuff.
But it's been terrific. Your energy has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
We've loved having you on.
We've enjoyed the banter between us too. We do love each other. You know, for those people who don't understand that.
Sometimes.
I'm a witness to the love.
But Ben, until even next week.
Next week, knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it.
See you next week.